Compass by Mathias, Enard. There are certain wounds in life that, like leprosy, eat away at the soul in solitude and diminish it. So writes the Iranian Sadat Hidayat at the beginning of his novel, The Blind Owl. The little man with round glasses knew this better than anyone. It was one of those wounds that led him to turn the gas on high in his apartment on Rue Championnet in Paris. One evening of great solitude, an April evening, very far from Iran. Very, very far. Perhaps he was censored because he dabbled with opium and cocaine, all the while making fun of drug addicts. Because he drank alone, or had the defect of no longer expecting anything from God, not even on certain great evenings of solitude, when the gas calls. His work begins with the end. 30 kilos of cross dragged with difficulty from lodging to lodging in the terrifyingly steep streets of Istanbul, from Yenikoi to Taksim, and earned me quite a few sarcastic remarks from my housemates, especially for the detergent and the first aid kit. I wanted to present the image of an adventurer, an explorer, a condottiere. And I was nothing but a mummy's boy overloaded with diarrhea medicine, buttons, and sewing thread, just in case. I could offer myself the luxury of dismissing my doctor, showing him the door. A doctor who talks to you about getting enough rest every visit, but is incapable of making you go to sleep, does not deserve the title of doctor. I have to admit, in his defense, that I've never taken any of the rubbish he's prescribed me. Aleppo was a city of stone, with endless labyrinths of covered suites leading to the glacis of an impregnable fortress. A modern city, with parks and gardens, built around the train station, the southern branch of the Baghdad bomb. Yes, the Baghdad bomb, which put Aleppo a week away from Vienna, via Istanbul and Konya, as early as January 1913. All the passengers who arrived by train stayed at the Baron Hotel. Anne-Marie arrived at Aleppo, at the Baron Hotel. Oh, Sarah was beside herself with joy when she discovered on a dusty yellowing paper the delicate cramped handwriting of the traveller who had filled out the registration form in French. She was waving the register around in the hotel lobby to the amused looks of the manager, who hadn't had the good fortune to know the dead Swiss woman who'd earned him such a demonstration of affection from Sarah. But he seemed sincerely happy for the discovery responsible for these transports of joy, so much so that he joined us to celebrate the findings at the hotel bar. Laughing uproariously, she explained to us that a red and white keffiyeh had appeared behind a rock, and that beneath the keffiyeh there was a tanned nomad standing, arms crossed, face impassive, observing in silence what for him too must have been a strange apparition. A foreign woman squatting in the desert. A real cartoon character, Sarah giggled. Builder added with panache, "Oh, this region hasn't been inhabited since 3rd millennium BC, and you have just seen the proof." The real question for Bilger was that of the relationship between archaeology and espionage, between military science and science pure and simple. How can we reassure Syrians today about our activities, Bilger moaned, if our more well-known predecessors played a political role, secret or public, in the Middle East? How? He by this observation. Famous archaeologists had all, at one time or another, dabbled in affairs of state. He had to be reassured. Fortunately or unfortunately, archaeologists had not been the only ones to serve the military. Quite the contrary. Pretty much every branch of science. Ever since Bonaparte in Egypt in 1798 had got scholars involved in writing his proclamation to the Egyptians and tried to pass as their liberator, scientists and artists had found themselves taking part willingly or unwillingly in the political and economic issues of the time. But it was not possible, Sarah argued, to condemn all these people en masse. Might as well blame chemistry for gunpowder and physics for ballistics. Things had to be brought back to the individual. You had to abstain from fabricating a general discourse that became, in turn, an ideological construct, a subject with no other import than its own justification. Oh, the debate became stormy. Sarah had mentioned the great name. The wolf had appeared in the midst of the flock in the freezing desert. Edward sighed. Oh, it was like invoking the devil in a Carmelite convent. Bilger, horrified at the idea that he could be associated with any kind of Orientalism, immediately began an embarrassed autocriticism renouncing everything. Francois-Marie and Julie were more nuanced on the question, while still acknowledging that Said had asked a burning but pertinent question, the relationship between knowledge and the power in the Orient. I had no opinion. I still don't. I think Edward Said was a great pianist. Two blankets underneath, two on top. That was our Palmyran bed. Sarah had rolled into a ball against me, her back against my stomach. She had kindly asked if that bothered me. I had tried not to let my enthusiasm show through. Of course not. Not at all. And I blessed nomadic life. Her hair smelled of amber and wood fire. I didn't dare move from fear of disturbing her breathing, whose rhythm overwhelmed me. I tried to breathe like her. Adagio at first, then largo. Next to my chest, I had the long curve of her back, barred by her bra, whose hooks I could feel against my folded arms. Her legs were cold, and she had intertwined them slightly in my own. The nylon was at once soft and electric against my calves, my knees in the hollows of hers. I had to try not to think too much about this proximity, which was, of course, impossible. An immense desire which I managed to stifle consumed me despite everything in silence. The intimacy of this position was at once chaste and erotic, like the Orient itself. And before burying my eyelids in her curls for some hours, I directed one last glance beyond the blue wool, at the sky over Palmyra, to thank it for being so inhospitable. I own a replica of it, or at least a similar model. I've always wondered where Sarah found this bizarre artifact. My Beethoven compass points east. A joke compass. I've played with it for a long time. Incredulous. I've made dozens of attempts at the kitchen window, at the living room window, at the bedroom window, and it always indicates east. Miraculously, if you place the E under the needle instead of the N, then everything, as if by magic, found its right place again. North became north, south became south. I didn't understand how that was possible. By what magic a compass could exist that points east and not north? The magnetism of the earth rises up against this heresy. This object possesses black magic. Oh, Sarah was laughing so hard at seeing me so disconcerted that she had tears in her eyes. She refused to explain the thing to me. I turned and turned again the damn compass in every direction. Oh, the witch responsible for this enchantment, or at least for its purchase, even the greatest magicians ply their tricks. She finally took pity on me and my lack of imagination. Oh, Franz, said Sarah, you lack poetry. You own one of the rare compasses that point to the Orient, the compass of the Enlightenment, a mystical diviner's wand. Clustered around the little barbecue, whose warmth was as illusory as that of the millions of stars around us, we listened to Sarah. She recounted the adventures of Lady Hester. What motivated the rich and powerful Lady Hester Stanley, niece of one of the most brilliant politicians of the time, to leave everything behind and settle in the Ottoman Levant, where she never stopped governing, reigning over the little domain she had carved out for herself in the Shuf between the Druze and the Christians, well, like a farm in Surrey. Her translator and secretary, son of an Englishman and a Syrian woman, whom she liked very much, came to tell her one day that another person she employed, named Michel Toutongi, had seduced a Syrian girl from the village, and that he had seen both of them sitting under a cedar of Lebanon. Oh, Toutongi denied it. No! Lady Hester called the whole village together on the lawn in front of the castle. She sat on some cushions, with her governor to her right and Toutongi to her left, wrapped in their cloaks like we are in our blankets, in a respectful attitude. The peasants formed a circle around them. Toutongi, she said, taking from her lips the long amber stem of that pipe she's always showed smoking in the engravings. You are accused of a criminal liaison with Fatou Maisha, Syrian girl who was here before me. You deny it. You others, she went on, addressing the peasants. If you know anything about this, speak up. I want justice to be done. You impute to the young man who's entering into the world and whose sole wealth and his reputation abominable things. Call your witnesses. Where are they? Oh, I don't have any, he replied. But I saw him. I did see him. If your eyes and lips have committed the crime, if you have looked at this woman, if you had seduced and kissed her, then your eyes and your lips will bear the punishment. Seize and hold him! You, barber, shave off the young man's left eyebrow and right moustache. What was said was done. Sam'an muta'atan, I listen and obey, as in the fairy tale. Omar Khayyam. Khayyam, the irreverent scholar, even has his statue not far from here, in the middle of the Vienna International Center, a statue offered a few years ago by the Islamic Republic of Iran, not at all spiteful against the poet of wine who was angry with God. Someday, I'd like to take Sarah to the Danube to see this monument that sits in the state, in the midst of the UN buildings, these four white marble scholars under their brown stone canopies, framed by columns reminiscent of those of the Ahadana and Persepolis. Khayyam, propelled by Edward Fitzgerald's translation, invaded literary Europe. The forgotten mathematician from the province of Khorasan became a leading poet in 1817. Sarah studied Khayyam through Sadr Hilayat's commentary and addition, a Khayyam reduced to the essential, reduced to the quatrains stemming from the oldest recensions, a Khayyam who was more skeptical than mystical. Sarah explained Ahmad Khayyam's immense worldwide fame by the universal simplicity of the quatrain form, first of all, and then by the diversity of the corpus. By turns, atheist, agnostic, or Muslim hedonist, or contemplative lover, inveterate drunk, or mystical drinker. The scholar from Khorasan, as he appears in 1,000 or so quatrains that are attributed to him. drink your wine and look truth in the face, your memories of days gone without a trace, the seasons of the rose and your tipsy friends, in this sad glass you drink eternity's taste. I've demonstrated all that, I've written all that, I've shown that the revolution in music in 19th and 20th century Europe owed everything to the Orient. That it was not a matter of exotic procedures, as was thought before. This exoticism had a meaning. That it made external elements, alternative, enter. Why am I getting worked up all alone on my pillow now? Probably because I'm a poor, unsuccessful academic with a revolutionary thesis no one cares about. I'd like to go back to the desert, or to the poems of Sayyad, the Iraqi with such an unfortunate face, huge ears that stuck out, who died in poverty, solitude, and suffering in Kuwait, where he shouted to the Persian Gulf, "Oh Gulf, you who offer pearls, shells, and death," with no other response than the echo, carried by the breeze of the Orient. You who offer pearls, shells,